Today I'm beginning chapter 4. My book doesn't have the numbers in them like most books have to show the sections and all of that. So this first part that I'm going to read, I don't know if it's counted as an actual section because it doesn't have a subtitle. So I'm just reading the part underneath chapter 4 called The Illusions of the Ego. The Bible says that you should go with a brother twice as far as he asks. It certainly does not suggest that you set him back on his journey. Devotion to a brother cannot set you back either. It can lead only to mutual progress. So what he's referring to here is practicing forgiveness. When we know that our brother, and remember, don't pay attention to the male pronouns, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a reflection more of our mistaken illusory world of duality. And in our illusory world, we have chosen patriarchy at this particular time. So therefore, male pronouns are being used here, but really it refers to everybody. So when we practice forgiveness with our brother, meaning everyone out there, we know that we are all the same, that we are all one with God. That is our truth. That's called practicing forgiveness. And when we do that, we are helping our brother and we are helping ourselves. This is how we wake up because we only have one mind and all minds are joined. They are joined unconsciously. So when we see our truth, it allows others to unconsciously get the message of what their truth is. The result of genuine devotion is inspiration. Okay, inspiration means in spirit, being guided by spirit. A word which properly understood is the opposite of fatigue. Okay, we feel fatigued when we believe the lies of the ego. We feel fatigued when we are not in alignment with our true self. When we are in alignment with our true self, we are inspired by spirit. To be fatigued is to be dispirited, right? Meaning not in alignment with spirit. But to be inspired is to be in spirit. So when we are inspired, we are in spirit, we are following our true selves inside. And this is when we have correct perception within the world of illusion. This is what helps bring us home, is by practicing that, doing that over and over and over again, having correct perception, being inspired by spirit. To be egocentric is to be dispirited. Okay, when you're in the ego thought system, you are not in alignment with spirit and you are dispirited. But to be self-centered in the right sense, Jesus says, right? Not self-centered like we think of here in our illusory world, like, oh, you're so selfish, you're so self-centered. No, he's saying in the right sense, meaning being centered on our true selves. But to be self-centered in the right sense is to be inspired or in spirit. The truly inspired are enlightened and cannot abide in darkness. So when we are in spirit, we are enlightened. We are seeing correctly. The light is shining upon the darkness. You can speak from the spirit or from the ego as you choose, right? It's our choice. This is what he's always telling us. If you speak from spirit, you have chosen to, and it says in quotes, be still and know that I am God. All right, so that's what we do when we are coming from spirit, when we are aligning with spirit. These words are inspired because they reflect knowledge. If you speak from the ego, you are disclaiming knowledge instead of affirming it. So when we are in our ego thought system, we are disclaiming knowledge, we are ignoring knowledge, and we are not affirming it, and thus dispiriting yourself. So when we are in knowledge, we are in alignment with spirit. That's coming from the foundation of truth. And when we are being ego-centered, we have our foundation in a lie. We are identifying with the ego thought system. So this is in spirit. This is dispirited. Do not embark on useless journeys, he's telling us, because they are indeed in vain, right? The entire ego thought system is in vain. The entire illusion is all in vain. The ego may desire them, but the spirit cannot embark on them because it is forever unwilling to depart from its foundation. So even though our ego desires this, our spirit lives here. It cannot change its foundation. Spirit cannot move over here to the lie because spirit is truth. Spirit is continuous and eternal and stable. So spirit lives here and stays here always. And we are just having a dream that we are here. We're just pretending. And it's all in vain. And it's because the ego wants to be the boss. The ego wants to be in charge. So it continues to run and hide from God's love in this pretend world. But our spirit still lives here all along. It never leaves. It never changes. This is who we really are. It just waits patiently for us to deny this, to no longer give focus to this, and to know that only this is true. The journey to the cross should be the last useless journey, he tells us. Okay, he's referring to the cross, the crucifixion, everything that we have made of it in this world. And also what it symbolizes, which is what the ego does. The ego wants to bear crosses. Do not dwell upon it, but dismiss it as accomplished. If you can accept it as your own last useless journey, you are also free to join my resurrection. So remember, the resurrection is symbolic of no longer being in the illusory world and going home to God. That is what the resurrection is symbolic of. So when we let go of the ego thought system, otherwise known as bearing the cross, then we can join Jesus or Christ in the resurrection, which means resurrecting our true selves, knowing who we truly are and letting the bearing of the cross go, because that's ego nonsense that just wants us to suffer and be punished because it thinks that we killed God and thinks that we are guilty and thinks that we need to be punished. It's all a lie. So the resurrection is knowing the truth, knowing that you are spirit, knowing that you are love, and knowing that that's what everyone else is as well. So until we join him in his resurrection, he says, until you do so, your life is indeed wasted. Right? We're completely wasting our time, our effort, our energy, our focus. I mean, really nothing's happening here. It's just a dream. But here we are spinning our wheels, trying to make it work all the time. It merely reenacts the separation, the loss of power, the futile attempts of the ego at reparation, and finally, the crucifixion of the body or death. So those things is what he is saying is what the ego thought system believes in. That is what we have made our world to be, is those things. Such repetitions are endless until they are voluntarily given up. So we are going to repeat this thought system again and again until we decide to give it up. Once we give it up, we can go home to God. When we volunteer to give up this world is when we can go home to our truth. But we have to choose it. We have to voluntarily do it. That's what this course is for, to teach us how to do that. Do not make the pathetic error, he says. He's always roasting us, Jesus. It's so funny. Do not make the pathetic error of clinging to the old rugged cross, he says. The only message of the crucifixion is that you can overcome the cross. That's it. That is the message of the crucifixion. Don't do it. Don't punish yourself like that. Don't suffer. We are learning how to overcome that. We are learning that we don't need to be doing this to ourselves. And yes, he's using the crucifixion as an example here, but it's everything that we do in our life that causes us pain, to punish ourselves again and again. Even being in a body and experiencing pain and death is a crucifixion. It's a way to condemn ourselves for what we think we did because we are filled with unconscious guilt. Until then, right? Until we voluntarily give up the ego thought system. Until then, you are free to crucify yourself as often as you choose. So he's saying you can spin around in nonsense and pain and destruction and judgment and suffering as long as you want. Time isn't real. It will keep going and keep pretending to go on and on until we finally voluntarily choose to give it up. Jesus says, this is not the gospel I intended to offer you. meaning bearing the cross, the crucifixion, suffering, the ego thought system. We have another journey to undertake, he says. And if you will read these lessons carefully, they will help prepare you to undertake it. So the other journey that he's referring to is the journey home to God. Everything he was talking about the crucifixion and what it symbolizes has to do with the ego thought system. Our journey is to give this up, to deny it, to know that it's not even really here, and to know that this is our truth, to go home to God, to go home to peace and to oneness. That is our choice. And as Jesus just described to us, we can choose to be here as long as we want. He's saying, but don't make that pathetic choice. He's saying, he suggests against it. He suggests that we deny this so that we can go home to God and know our real truth. So be gentle with yourself. The ego thought system has a very firm grip on our mind. It's why we think we're here. It's why we think we're these bodies. It's why we think the illusory world is really doing something to us all the time, okay? Because we are very, very deeply asleep in the ego's pretend world. So be gentle with yourself as you work on volunteering to choose your truth, to choose spirit. And we do this by practicing forgiveness. We do this by overlooking the world of form, and pain or lack of any sort is a great reminder to us that we have chosen incorrectly. Anytime we are feeling pain, lack, discomfort, fear of any kind, we know that we have chosen wrong. We're in the ego thought system. And that's great news when we do that, because that is our indicator to choose again, to deny the ego thought system and to make the choice once again to choose spirit, to choose love. And that doesn't mean that you have to go around in the world and act lovingly. That doesn't mean you have to act like you love everyone and everything all the time. In previous sections, he has described to us, it's not about your behavior. Your behavior means nothing. It has to do with which thought system you are identifying with. So you don't need to go around acting like you love everything all the time. What the aim is to be neutral. To know that the world is neutral, that it holds no power, that nothing is here. And then from that neutral place, you can choose spirit. From that neutral place, choose love, choose God. What will you choose today?